Okay, this is a call to order for the October 10th City Council meeting, and it's 6:02.
6:02 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and I need the roll call.
Okay. Who's supposed to be first? Jason Daly.
Here.
Randy Hall.
Here.
Joe Shive.
Here.
Mike Parsons.
Here.
Leona Sander Hunter, but she's not here, but we'll hear more about that in a minute. And Mayor Wilson.
Thank you.
I just married too many years of like.
Here.
Of course that happens.
Sorry.
You should yell at her when she does that.
Yeah.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyway, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And you're it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to go through my mayor's report, and since we have the vacant seat, I need to announce that Leona Sanders Hunters has resigned due to health reasons. She expressed her gratitude to all for the following: for allowing her to serve on the council, and I know we'll miss her. She's just a real sweet lady. In our council meetings, and wish her the best. As for filling the vacant position, I will remind everyone that the council has 90 days to fill the vacancy. However, since Samantha Lovelady is running unopposed for that now vacant position, and because the election will be in approximately 1 month's time, it is not reasonable to find someone else to fill the position. I have yet to talk to Mrs. Lovelady, but it makes sense to me to see if she would be interested in being seated for the position a little early. And what does the city council think of that? Can you give me an opinion?
Nomination?
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the nomination
A motion?
tonight. You could if you wanted, I suppose, but
I say we make a motion to bring Samantha Lovelady onto the council position to fill Leona. Is that 3? 2?
position 5.
5.
Position 5.
Position 5.
Okay. And that motion was made by
Mike. I didn't even write it in your script because I didn't anticipate that. I'm sorry. You're going to have to wing it.
Not wasting time.
I'll wing it.
We need a
You
second.
have to ask for a second.
We'll be glad to have you fill that seat right there.
So we have a second
by
Jason.
Yeah.
Now
The vote.
Discussion.
Now you ask for discussion.
Oh, go ahead and discuss.
Anyone? Any discussion?
Any discussion?
I think it's not out of.
I think it's.
The scope.
I have
it's
a feeling
probably
she's
fine.
going to win.
Right.
That seems reasonable.
If I don't win, I would be slightly surprised.
So, all right.
Okay, now we can vote on it.
Yeah, and we'll vote. I want to make a vote to accept this lady, Samantha Lovelady, in the position of Leona. That wasn't here.
Just all those in favor?
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed.
The motion has been carried.
I brought this right.
I Not
I was gonna
yet.
say, because I haven't gotten packets, so.
No, and you
yeah.
haven't been sworn in yet, so
Okay.
we'll have to take care of that. And I'm gonna make sure with the attorney that it's okay that we did that. I don't think it's not, but I just will double check.
Yeah, we don't need to announce it or
No.
schedule it or anything.
I don't think so, but we'll just double check and make sure everything's in order, and if there's no issue, then she'll be in for the next meeting. All
I
right.
was not expecting it so soon.
She'll get sworn in at the next meeting.
Right.
There you go.
Okay, I have a second item that I'd like to provide some information on to the public so we can hopefully clear up any confusion or misinformation going around. There's been a lot of talk about around town as to what the status is of the Rigsby property at 706 B Street. This property has an active code enforcement case against it, which has resulted in a judgment of over $583,500. In addition, under the law, daily penalties have continued to run until the property is brought into compliance with the code. Those penalties now exceed $1 million. The city has been negotiating with a potential purchaser to bring the property into compliance in exchange for waiving all the judgment and penalties. The city has been consistently open to this, provided the work is completed prior to the city waiving the judgment and the penalties, and provided the city recovers all of its actual costs for this code enforcement case, which at this time is under $10,000. I wanted to know, is that
There's a little bit more.
okay? Oh, I do not plan to add more than this comment, as this is in the hands of the legal counsel, but I did want to let the public know the facts and the city's position. We are hopeful for a successful resolution to this matter. And onward. Council, city council, does the council have any other reports? Any of you guys have any?
I saw somebody was already clearing their yard and there was a sign posted, surveillance sign posted, and somebody had cleared part of the lot.
Yeah. The only thing I've got is fall is coming, and I'd ask that everyone take ownership of your streets. So when you mow your lawn and it goes out on the street, blow it off back onto the thing. We're always talking about our roads being messed up, and grass sitting on a road, asphalt, is not good for it. So please blow off the leaves off the road, try to keep the roads clean, take ownership in your own roads. And if one person on that block did it, then John would be able to do other stuff instead of mowing ditches or whatever we can take care of. So that, and not to be a scared conspiracy theory guy, but California has a lot of really weird stuff going on. My brother-in-law is a manager at a gas station down there, and he got called in to go into work at 4 a.m. tomorrow because they will be rationing their gas. They will no longer be able to fill their tanks. They have a 5-gallon maximum limit. I don't know if it's statewide. I just know that that's his gas
Is he in
station.
Southern Cal?
No, he's
They have
Colfax area, way northern California.
They've been
But
trying to
they've
power.
been without power for a bunch of days.
Yeah.
The only reason I say it is if you have friends there, my crew is down there. I just had them go buy 5 gas cans so that at least they can get to Oregon to get home next Monday. But crazy things that happen in California end up coming up here sooner or later. I mean, I'm here, so I'm from that crazy state. So just be prepared and keep a smart head. So that's all.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Anyway, the council's reports, the agenda, the city council meeting agenda for 10/10/2019, and the minutes. We need an approval for the agenda and the minutes for 9/26/2019.
Yeah, just do one at a time. I'll start with the agenda.
Okay.
So as the budget estimates aren't ready, should we scratch that from the agenda?
That's up to you. If you want to, we can have a short discussion about the status if you want.
Okay,
Okay.
So if you want to keep it on there.
sure, okay. If there's something to talk about, we can talk about it. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written for October 10th, 2019.
Okay. And did you want me the voucher approvals?
No.
We need a
We're
second
on agenda.
We need a second.
for the agenda.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Huh? No discussion, okay. The next one down
All
is,
those in favor?
all those in favor. Oh,
You gotta get your finger on the spot.
yeah, okay.
On the spot.
Agenda approval.
There you go.
A motion to approve the agenda.
Did that.
And do we have a second?
We did that.
The
Jason.
motion has been seconded by
Jason.
Jason.
Uh-huh.
Any council discussion?
We did that.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Finally.
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm horrible at
What's
this.
after that?
And any opposed? And the motion passed.
Awesome.
Okay.
Just slide your finger down that same sheet and go
Do
to the
we
next
have a
one.
motion to approve the minutes?
There you go.
I'll make a motion to approve the city council meeting minutes for 9/26/2019.
Do we have a second? They've been submitted by Mike.
I'll second it.
Jason seconded. The motion has been seconded by Jason. Is there any other council discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The motion is passed. Voucher approval. Do we have a motion to approve the vouchers?
I'll make a motion that we approve the voucher totals for the first half of October 2019 at $37,796.16.
Is the motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mike seconded it. The motion has been seconded. Is there any council discussion? None? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion's passed. Under the special reports, we have Lewis County Sheriff's Office.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Kevin Engelbertson with the Lewis County Sheriff's Office. Kind of nervous right now because I feel like I'm being watched by my boss. So last month, August, we had quite a few calls. It was a big month for us down here in Vader, not so much in September. We had a total of 320 citizen contacts. Total of 17 calls on shift. 5 of those calls were while we were assigned to work patrol shifts down here. The other 12 we responded to and handled while we weren't actually working a shift, but we responded to and handled it. We had 17 traffic stops resulting in 1 traffic infraction and 2 arrests while we were on shift and 1 arrest while we were off shift that we responded to. So good news is that I'm not seeing, and I maybe knock on wood, I'm not seeing a lot of property crimes. Most of our arrests are traffic related. We did have last month quite a few violation of court orders. We had several of those, but I'm not saying there's not thefts and burglaries going on, because there always is, but right now it seems like it's not too bad down here, so I haven't seen a lot of that in my reports, so.
Have you, have you been getting calls for thefts? We had a candidates meeting the other night, and somebody was talking about tools being stolen or something like that, and I asked if they reported it. They said yes, but
Yeah, I can follow up on that. A lot of times when people say they have, and I know we've ran into this where they say, yeah, we had this, but they don't actually report it. So if they said yes, and they probably did, I can check on it. But I haven't seen a lot of thefts or burglaries in our, I go through all the calls for the month, and I just, they do pop up here and there, but
yeah.
For a county population, it seems pretty good down here in Vader right now. So it seems like it kind of is sporadic, though. Every couple months it'll kind of come up. And
Will they get out of jail,
they tend to do
in a month
that,
or so, and then you catch them, and then it's good for a couple months.
Yes, yeah.
So I have a quick question that just reminded me that Sergeant Cheeseman, I think, he used to provide like a list of the different calls and like just a basic like theft, burglary, civil.
It's really funny that you
just-
mentioned that, because I actually saw that sheet today,
Okay.
and I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. So
Is that something you might be able?
Yes,
I don't know
yep.
how much time that would take.
No,
to
I can do that.
But if that's something that might be helpful to.
I thought when I looked at it, I thought it was the end of the year report of the calls, but
Yeah.
if you
No,
guys
he-
want it
he
monthly
did
or
it
something.
every time,
Yeah.
I think, if I remember.
Because I already print out and go through them, so
Okay.
I'll start sending that to you.
That might be helpful.
The other question I had is McMurphy Park closed for the winter season for driving in there?
It is. We
Okay.
had to close it this week because somebody went in and did cookies.
Okay.
So that's usually our trigger for close it. We do have an event that's going on down there on the 19th. Is that what's Saturday?
Yes.
Saturday the 19th, so the restrooms are still working, and we'll unlock it for that event that day, but they'll be locked up
Okay.
again. So it should just be foot traffic.
Okay. Any other questions from the council?
Introduce, the second proposal is,
Nope.
Nope, that's it.
Actually, I have one quick question.
Okay.
Your count, the very first number you said,
Citizen contacts?
what does that mean exactly?
So that is when we encourage deputies to, we don't want them just to drive around, sit in their car, we want them to actually contact citizens. That could be, you see some kids out on the street, you stop your car, say hi. We have stickers we hand out. It could be, we like to do business contacts, so we'll go down to the store, we'll talk to people down there. Anytime we make physical contact with someone and have a
I'm
conversation.
not passing them in the car.
No.
Okay. Because that was brought up the other night too, that you guys, that was how part of the count, and I just wanted to get clarification.
No, some people are really active and they want to go out and actually contact people.
Right.
Some deputies don't have as much because they do want to work traffic and they're trying to concentrate on a problem area or something. So it kind of is sporadic. Depends deputy to deputy how many you get. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Second item is to hear a proposal by Sheriff Snaza about the upcoming budget and the contract renewal for the law enforcement services.
Well, good afternoon, Council. I'm Rob Snaza, Lewis County Sheriff. And first of all, I apologize for not coming down as often as I'd like to. I do drive through the area periodically. And for those of you who don't know, I'm the one that was assigned, that was Kevin's position when I was a sergeant here when we first started the contracts with Vader. And the idea of the contacts is a good idea about the contacts was we wanted to make sure that our philosophy about community policing continued while we were down here. And that was huge for us because being a part of the community. At one point we were just patrolling the city and it was like, hey, you got 4 hours, you got 8 hours, whatever it might be, you need to be making contact. We need to show what you're doing out down here. And it's very easy for us to pull up the statistical data that we have down here. And a lot of things that we talked about over the years is what we're doing and what impact we're having on law enforcement. I know there's always been talk about, do you have your own law enforcement? How does that look like? Do you contract? And you're always looking at the price tag and you're going, holy cow, that's a lot of money. And the budget that, I don't know if you guys have the sheets in front of you, I think we're looking at $87,120 or something, $120. That covers the patrol time that we spend down here, the 20 hours a week that we come down here. And it covers that for the manpower to come down here. It also covers for us responding to all calls for service in the Vader area. And part of that also is jail time. So if you read the paper and stuff, you say we're full at the jail, but here's the one thing is that what it costs. So what it costs today, at the jail, it's about $73 a day. So when we had originally talked to Ken about this, Ken Smith, when he was mayor, about we added everything together was because, and Joe, I think you might remember this, but we were talking about what it would cost if you had a individual that got arrested for suspended in the first degree. That judge could give them a sentence, impose a sentence that would almost break the budget, that you would have on one person or one DUI or just one person being in jail. We were seeing this throughout the county with the cost effect would be on people. So what we did is we consolidated everything, and what the proposal was at that time when we first started is we proposed that we would absorb jail fees, we would absorb everything under one cost. And so when we did that, we did the contract. Basically, we raised it for 10% for the next 2 years, going into 20 and 21. Realistically, the raises that were gone, we ended up we should be charging about 13%, but we want to keep it to a minimum of 10% because of the raises that cost. Basically, we're just charging basically what it costs for a deputy to be down here with their new raises and overtime fees, and then what it costs for the jail increases. So the proposal is $87,120. It is a 10% flat rate across the board, and it encompasses everything. And coming to the council, this is a time where you guys start thinking, well, is the service that you're getting, is it what you want? Or is there do we need to have other meetings of what we need to do better? And that's where Kevin can come in, what we can do. Are the times working out? Do we need to adjust some things? Those are things that Kevin can work with the council to do and provide that statistical data information. So we're really work diligently to provide the best service we can, and we're also making sure that we're providing service even when we don't have someone assigned here. We're trying to make sure that we have enough coverage coming down here. We are seeing an increase. Senator Braun had called me and asked, they're seeing an increase in property crimes. We are seeing a trend in some property crimes, whether it might be thefts and then your burglaries are down or your vehicle prowls are up, but something else might be down, as far as malicious mischief and stuff like that. It goes in cycles, but overall we are seeing a trend that goes up. And it's like what Jason says. they get out. A lot of times we work very hard. We put a number of people in prison. They end up getting out, and they find their way back into community where they start doing these crimes. So Sir, Mr. Parsons, when you're at these candidate meetings, I would encourage when we have these meetings is, hey, always call. People say, I don't want to call because it's an inconvenience. It's something small. That something small that they call in could turn into something bigger than they realize. Whether it's a suspicious vehicle, whether it's a suspicious person, whether it's a theft. The individual may not realize that we took a theft complaint right off of South Military Road and we got suspect information, and they may have come in and did some other crimes in the community that we could tie that to. So I would encourage people to call. And that's something, and I know it's up to that individual to make those decisions whether they want to call or not. But we always encourage people to call, because when you don't call, then you feel like, well, what are we paying for? What's this community? Vader is still a thriving community, and I know there's some businesses coming in and won't want to continue. We're going to see growth coming around here. It's happening. We've got some great people moving into our community, and it's awesome to see some growth. And as we continue, we want to be able to have a thumbprint on what we're doing here in the community and be a part of that. So I know I diversed a little bit from the budget, but it's important that we talk about these things. It's important that we have conversation. And if you have questions, ask. And I open myself up to anybody if they want to meet with me at any time to say, hey, what can we do this or whatever we can do. We'll look at ways to be creative about doing enforcement and all those other things going on that you may not be aware of what we're doing in some parts of the county. So any questions?
So I have a question. So right now we're paying $6,600 a month.
Which is about 72,000
So
a
this
year.
would be about 73, 72.
Yeah, it's...
This will take our monthly payment to $7,300 a month instead.
And like I said, it's covering basically wages
Right,
is what it's
right.
really doing, and some of the jail increase fees.
Mhm.
So the 2-year deal is that for us, we're already raising rates for other cities on their jail rates. So their jail rates have increased more than that.
So is that 87 number, is that the second year's number, or is that this next year's number?
It's the next 2 years number.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it'll be-
So you'll pay the same amount for 2 years running.
Okay.
For 2021.
Yeah, for 2021, and then we'll come back at the table and go from there. We'll come back, meet with the mayor at that point, prior to the budget of 2021, and have a conversation. And then, we can have some sideline conversations, whatever it is, and then just, it'll be up to the council to decide what they want to do with it. I know for a while there were some issues going with city and district courts, okay? For us, it's easy. It made sense if we're doing everything to go through district. I know the challenges was to get through city because sometimes city judges are a little more lenient. They understand the financial situations that are occurring in the city. But Prosecutor Meyer came down a couple of years ago when we started the other contract, and we talked about, it just makes sense because I think he's barely charging. I don't know if there's even a charge, if there's anything, for going to district court.
District court, we have 0.
Yeah, so you're talking about that. The savings there is really quite, because you're no longer paying that whatever monthly or quarterly fee for a city
We're
court.
also not paying the
Municipal.
prosecutor cost, we're not paying
Yeah.
the defender cost.
Yeah.
Um,
So the savings is what you'll see on the back side of it, but it does make sense to go through district court. No, I know Toledo does. I know some other agency. There's a couple, like Napavine still does municipal court, but if they're that busy, but at the end of the day are you spending that money and not getting anything on your return investment, what you're putting out there? Because it does cost, everything costs, but they can raise their rates, do whatever they want. But I think the district court proposal by Prosecutor Meyer was just a great deal for everybody, for the community as a whole, really. So, did that answer your question, Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've got a couple questions, but also first a testimony of calling in and reporting. I came out of a building in California. We lived in a small town, Lincoln. I saw a lady looking in windows of cars, and she went. It was a church building, and she was going from one car to the next. And I said, "Hey, can I help you?" And she said, "Oh, I lost my necklace. I was looking on the ground." I said, "Oh, let me help you find it." "Oh, that's okay." She jumped in her car, and as she was driving off, I wrote down her license plate number. I called, and the chief of police in that town rented pasture where we were. It was a small town, bigger than this, but anyway. That phone call led to 150 cases being closed because they went to the guy's house, they found stolen stuff, and then they found stuff from 150 different cases because of just somebody looking through a window. So little calls like that really do.
And I will tell you, the good part about Lewis County is we still respond to those calls. We're still capable of responding to what people would say a minute or a menial call. We're responding to those in person. We're driving down to take care of those things. We're not just handling it by phone. And we're going down there and truly investigating. You know, there may be a time where a call will be made, maybe it's a civil matter or something like that. But overall, deputies respond. There is a case number, because if we look around, you were talking, Mike, about, you know, down in California, there's places they don't even handle these calls.
Oh.
A suspicious person, a suspicious vehicle, no one will even respond. It's just, they're so busy they don't. That's not where we're at today. And I'm hoping, as long as I'm sheriff, that we'll continue to go down the path. If he's locked out, you
Someone's
might
trying
want
to
to think about it.
So questions, because there was, at this candidates meeting the other night, there was some people that were, we need our own police force. So my son-in-law is a police officer. I know that we're paying you just under what he makes. Or just over what he makes. So I can't figure out if we have a Vader PD and we arrest somebody and he goes to the jail. Obviously we can't use our jail, it's a little outdated, so we're going to send it to the county, just like Battleground does.
Sure. Yep.
We have to pay for every night that those people are in there. Okay. If we have a situation and our officer can't handle it by himself, say it's a hostage situation or something like that, and we need SWAT, you guys would come, correct?
Right.
Would you charge us?
Not on something like that, we would
Okay.
take over. So what happens is the sheriff has full authority over all cities, okay? Whether they have law enforcement or not. If we feel that, let's just say a case may be over their head per se, we will come in, we'll handle it. And that may not make that officer handle. We'll try to do a quick partnership saying, hey, this is what we do every day. Those type of things. I think you have to be cautious. If the city, and I've always promoted community, I mean, whether it's Vader or Winlock or whatever, what I encourage is you start thinking about stuff. So right now, for a deputy, just so we're clear, a deputy costs $133,000 right now with everything. Brand new deputy costs about $143,000 for upfront costs. So the average deputy is $133,000. I'm just doing some round numbers here. So if you look at $103,000 and then you take that out, but you go ahead.
Sorry, does that include his equipment?
Yes.
Okay, so a vehicle.
Yeah, because you're paying, because a car costs about $16,000 a year. Fuel is added into there. You know, you talk about computers are about almost $2,700 a year. So what I'll tell you is this. If a police officer came in, you could say, well, we're going to pay him $75,000 a year because you want to keep him. Now, the reason, and Jill knows because we had conversations, is so now you have vacation, you have sick time, days off. So then you start taking that, and then you talk about the training that they have each year. So then your average officer is probably working the road, maybe 25, 30 hours. Okay, because you're going to take away a number of things that they're doing, whether it's training. So now you're taking it down to 30, let's just even give them 35 hours. Well, is that worth what you're paying? Because you're going to pay the extras, because you're going to have to pay for the retirement, you're going to have to pay for all the back-end costs, and then you have to talk about the little fees that we don't see, which can really impact a small city. Financially, and then you'd say, okay, what if we still go district court? Then it may change, and then you have to talk about going into some of the newer programs that we have, whether it's with Sector, which is a database that you have for writing citations or anything like that. The training that they have to have 24 hours of training every year. So what's that cost to go and do everything? And then if they are a chief, they're going to want to, because even a single officer can be the chief, that individual will want to get their leadership certificates and everything. So they're going to want to be going to training. So there's a real big cost associated. And the reason I know this is because I remember the last chief that was here, and I remember the things that were concerning with the city, because the complaint was he's never here, he's always at training or he's off, and they're never here. So here's what I would say to that. So you get an officer, and that's up to the city. We're not going to be hard. It's okay if that's what the city is. But if we come into the city, we're going to charge you. Just like we do PL right now. And we've tried to talk to PL and we said, listen, if you can't respond, we are going to bill you. And that means every time a patrol deputy goes, and if two deputies respond, you may get a bill for 2. Now, if you look at the calls and you say, well, what if we just did by calls? You may say, well, it's cheaper if we do by calls, because it would be. At the end of the day, though, it's what are you looking to get out of it? Are you looking for that visibility, that comfort feeling to know that if someone calls, someone's going? It's not like calling somebody, because maybe the guy doesn't want to, he or her does not live in the city, but they live somewhere else, and they're responding to the call. We're going to respond there to assist as well. So there's so many parallels to it. And when you look at cost effectiveness, so if you look at it, you go like, okay, $87,000 or a possible lawsuit if bad things happen, unlawful arrest, some type of violations, whatever it looks, or just all those things. I guarantee you $87,000 will not cover one police officer. Now, I know this because Joe will tell you that I know at one time the city had looked at Toledo. Okay, what did it look like at that time? The one thing I caution everybody is you get what you pay for. Be cautious of that. So if you get somebody, you're going to get what you pay for. But it could cost you, because what if that officer gets injured on duty? Now you're going to pay for it. And it may be quite a long time before you ever recoup those funds and you're still stuck with it. So smaller cities are really contracting now just because of what we're talking about here and the cost effectiveness. But let's say the city says we want to do it. For you to get a brand new officer will cost you $100,000. I mean, flat rate $100,000. Even if you're only going to pay him $50,000 because you're going to pay the medical, you're going to pay all that left, and then you have to send it to the academy, and then you're going to have to buy all the equipment. You're looking at pretty close. Then what your car costs, and then your ongoing costs from there. So it's very challenging, folks. As some of you know, I worked in a small agency. I worked for Napavine for a number of years. I enjoyed it, best time that I had, and I always enjoyed it. And I cautioned the city of Winlock in the same fashion. And right now, they don't even have authority to go in the county. That's how uncomfortable I am at this point. I don't want to say they're bad officers. What I'm saying is I don't need them in the county where they could be a liability. And that's an executive decision that our team has made, and we stick to that. So, did that answer your question?
Perfect.
All right, thanks, Mike. Go ahead.
I don't want to stand this a lot longer, but one quick thing is back in 2011 when our officer resigned, our chief resigned, if I remember correctly, our budget for the year was around $125,000 to $130,000, and that was just one officer. And we had to start all that back up again. At today's costs and rates, it's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, and I remember at one point, Vader had at one point was having 3 officers. They were, because of the COPS grant that was being funded through the federal government. But at the end of the day, if you took that on, you were going to have to pay for it. And they did for a little bit, and then they ended up moving out of the area. It was several years ago, because when I worked the county, that had happened. We're very cautious about doing a COPS grant because I don't want to be the person to hire and then lay somebody off because they have families and all that. That's a very big challenge for us. But any questions?
But the other thing I wanted to bring up is, I don't know if this is something you can help us with, but one of the few things that we do still have to pay for here at the city is dispatch.
Right.
And I was notified that our dispatch costs are supposed to go up over 100%.
No, well, so we kind of changed that a little bit. We're working on that. We have a meeting tomorrow with dispatch, and the group had voted on changing some of the formulas instead of, because what they do is they do a 3-year average. Okay, they do a 3-year average, and so like if we all remember when Toledo was taking over Winlock, right? For those 2 years they had it. Well, then last year they haven't had it, right? Well, when they did the 3-year average, they still were charging Toledo 130% above what they had been paying, because before they were taking care of Winlock. And then Winlock had like a 50-some% decrease, because of inactivity. So because they didn't have a police department, right? So it was kind of a wash. And what we did was the sheriff's office was actually looking at what percentage? We were looking at almost a 30% increase, 32% increase on our own, and we were going to pay an extra $100,000 or something like that. And then we talked to Centralia, who was actually getting a discount by about $50,000. We said, hey, listen, what we want to do is when you're doing budget, that's ridiculous to do a 3-year average, and then because based on calls, because it's like the fire department. You could have one person that's been getting sick all the time and jack up the calls, because you normally do 25 maybe in a quarter, and now you're doing 50 because they keep getting sick, right? So we thought, well, we don't need to do that. We just need to do an increase across the board for all agencies as a whole. Make sense? So instead of going up and down like this in a roller coaster, what we've asked for the last couple of years is just go with a percentage. The vote right now is at 7% increase. So we're asking straight across the board a 7% increase for every agency. Agencies that were up, agencies that were low, they've all agreed that we'll do a flat rate of what we paid last year at 7%. Make sense? So it's better than this increases or stuff like this. There probably will be a time where that will change for us with Vader, but I don't know when that'll happen. But right now we're looking at 7%. We'll know tomorrow where that goes. But the vote, the initial discussion was with other chiefs was straight across the board with 7%. They'd asked for 10%. But the justifications, because there is talks about dispatch moving to a regional facility, which would be in Thurston County. Right now, they're looking at Thurston County. There's no decisions been made. They're looking at that, or do they build, bless you, but do they build a regional facility down here? Right now, bless you again, but right now we know that our dispatch is at end of life, okay? So everything we're spending in dispatch is a Band-Aid. And so I have a hard time putting a ton of money into infrastructure in certain parts when I know that it all needs to come to a head. But with the pay increases were only 3%. So if we just did 3%, and I said, wow, that's not bad, 3%. Well, then they want to add all these extra items on for different ER&R and fixing and stuff, which we still have to continue to do until we make that decision to regional. So there's a lot of things behind it. A lot of the only few chiefs that are actually involved in some of these is maybe Toledo. Winlock is absent a lot of times. So we're making some decisions, but everybody has to be at this meeting tomorrow to make it happen. So you will get a final cost at some point next week. So you'll see.
Well, I'm a voting member at that.
Well, you're on a different board.
Oh, is it?
We're on. Are you on that Friday?
Tomorrow at 1
Okay,
o'clock.
so you're the representative there. Okay.
Because we don't have a chief.
Right. So we are voting, the agreement is 7%, so don't screw it up. Don't say 10. Don't say 10%, right?
So this dispatch fee we would have if we had our own police.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with our contract.
Nothing to do with the
We have
contract.
to pay our portion of the dispatch fees for the county.
That is if you would go through county dispatch, not Lewis County Sheriff's Office. We have nothing to do with dispatch.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you would go through the county dispatch, yes, you would have that fee.
Yes.
If you would maybe contract with someone else, maybe Cowlitz would do your dispatching, I'm sure that there would be a fee to go through them.
So we're looking at other ways of what we can do. I disagree. My biggest disagreement is we've been paying double percentage for the last 5 years. Since I've been sheriff, we've been in double percentages, and our dispatch fees have gone up 40-50%. And then I asked the director, which is Steve Mansfield, I said, what's this? There is no end in sight. They're going to continue to ask for that. And I find it absolutely, I want to be careful how I use my words, but basically if you're running a business and you increase in 5 years 50% of your cost to your customer, how long are you going to keep your customer? Not long. I mean, that's
Kind of ridiculous.
Yes, and the service that you're getting. So we're always on that service, the quality of service that you get at dispatch and the quality of service that you receive. We expect the best quality because we are paying at a premium price. And so when we go to these dispatch fees, our dispatch meeting, that is a very contentious situation because everybody has their own views on it. So, but that is dispatch fees are a big thing. So, but I think overall that the fact is that you don't pay those court costs anymore to the city, and I don't know what you guys are paying a month, but or a quarter.
Quarterly.
And it was
$1,100 quarterly.
Yeah, even $1,100 quarterly. So you're talking what, $4,400?
All the other costs on top of it.
Yeah, so you're paying $4,400 and you're not getting anything back on it. So.
But we also don't get the revenue. So.
Well,
But
I think
it's
you
still-
do, but it's not as what you would like to see.
We don't get the revenue now that we're in district court, but it's still, we've come out ahead because of how much we were spending. We weren't making enough to cover our
Yeah,
costs.
I think the money you save, the $4,400, is more than you would ever get in infraction costs because you're talking like less than $25 in an infraction or whatever fee may be. It's very minimal. So,
Yeah.
any questions for the council?
So.
I know I talk a lot. I try not to be a politician. I apologize. And when you sit in that seat, you'll get to be a politician.
This was a big topic at that meeting, so
Yeah.
it's really actually great to hear.
So yeah, and when you don't hear the response on the other side, we start thinking
Right.
about, wow, that's ridiculous amounts of money. Why are we spending that? Why don't we have our own law enforcement? This is our own community. We're still a city. I get all that. I totally understand that. And I think, if we were sitting back 25 years ago, I would encourage you to have your own municipality, your own law enforcement. But I will tell you, today is much different than it was 25, 30 years ago. And I can tell you I was present back then, and it was a lot different. And the costs and all the liabilities and everything that is combined with that is huge. It's ridiculous amounts of money. So, and then getting the law enforcement officers, because a lot of times you'll see law enforcement come into the community. They want to work. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to work here for 5 years. I'll do whatever it takes. About a year down the road, after they get out of the academy, they go, "Hey, county's hiring. I'm out." What do? I mean, you can try to charge them for it, but you start over. So every time you're starting over, it's costing you. And then if you have someone who's retired and says, "Well, I'll work 20 hours." Okay, so they work 20 hours. They may only be a reserve. So now any felony crimes comes up, we're handling, and you're getting a bill from us. Because how many people I go down, it's going to cost.
And the cost for the academy is $4,000, and that individual would be gone for 18 weeks.
Yeah.
Before they be any use to you.
So right now, if we just sent an individual to the academy, yes, Monday, we will not see him until springtime, and he will not be out on his own until July 1. And we sent him October 8th.
So what's the age limit?
There is no limit. I mean, no, there is no limit. We have people that are up in their 60s as reserves. We have people, I don't know if we have any, we have Ken Cheeseman. He's in his 60s. He's got his AARP card just like me, so I won't say his age. There's a couple of us up there. But no, I mean, but it is a young man's game. It really is. So happy to answer any questions. If you guys have any calls, just let Kevin know if you want to meet with me one-on-one or you have questions. I'm available. I try to go through my boss, which is Sherry, because she can set up the times. But I love if you guys have questions or anything I can do. Please do not hesitate to call. Set up the time with Sherry. And I know I haven't been down at the restaurant lately, but you know, I drive by every now and then. I make sure the parking lot's full. So
What's today?
thank you guys for the opportunity, and please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now on to city business. And the first item of business for city council to hear is an update on the status of the home occupation topic by our city clerk treasurer.
So, first I have to apologize because I don't have anything ready for you. I know that when we talked about this at 2 meetings ago, I said that I would help get verbiage together for council to start thinking about and consider. And I knew that we were going to run into problems because we had our computer install coming up, and so I bumped it to this meeting thinking, okay, that'll give us enough time. Well, what happened was we actually, because the auditors came, we actually had to push back the install a week, and then the install was not smooth, let's say smooth. We're not going to point any fingers, but it wasn't our fault here at the city. And so it ended, and we're still working through computer issues now, and so there's been a lot of hours that Tammy and I have been trying to work without the use of our computers, and so this is one of the things that just got pushed back because our limited time that we have to use the computers, I wasn't able to get to this topic. So I apologize, but I'm hoping at the next council meeting I'll definitely have something for you on this. I wanted to put it on the agenda so it didn't fall in the black hole and didn't get forgotten about. So
Perfect.
The second item of business for the council is to discuss a new topic of concern brought up by each of the city council members. Councilor Daly has offered to introduce the topic tonight.
Yes, this is something that we've all I think we've all talked about one-on-one time. Is changing our city policy right now is that the hiring and firing of city employees is done solely by the mayor, and it's something that I know that Mike and I have talked about changing that to being something that is more into the hands of the council as well as the mayor. So to get this wordage right, we have to make sure that I have to make sure that it's something that all of us want to try to do in order to protect our city employees from unjust cause termination. So discussion.
Yes.
What?
That makes sense. I mean, we don't want one person. Like, for example, if we had a new mayor who didn't like, for example, Jill, just fired without cause. That would not be a good thing. So maybe it should be more than just the mayor having that power, and make it has to be voted on by the city council.
And that's one of the wordage parts is possibly doing for some of our employees a contract, some kind of a contract that can only be dissolved by council, unless some kind of a warranted reason for immediate termination or something like that. But that's the most recent suggestion from the attorney was to have it be a contract. situation kind of thing, so.
Is there a
So-
motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Before you make the motion, can I, because I wanted to clarify because I provided the information that I had at the time at the beginning of the week, but since, and so that's the motion that's written there, but since then I have found that, because initially my understanding was that the personnel policy needed to be amended in order to make this allowance to allow for possible employee contracts with the city. And when I looked into this further, after I had typed this up, I was continuing to look up information and found that it actually is not a personnel policy issue. It would be something that would have to be written into the city code. So the city council would have to pass most likely an ordinance that allows, under certain conditions, the city can enter into a contract, an employment contract with an employee as opposed to them being an at-will employee, which is what allows a mayor to hire and fire at will, as it's stated. So I'm not sure if the verbiage is exactly right for expressing that. So I guess the next step would be if council is in agreement with the process, would be just to approve. Our own city attorney could do the work for putting together some language for the code, the city code, to update the city code to allow contracts. We wouldn't have to hire an additional personnel employee to do that, or a personnel attorney to do that.
Would it have to be a contract, or could you just change the?
So we checked into that first to see, because we thought, well, the simplest thing would be just to add, to our current code that
Right.
the council has to approve it and that the mayor can't do it. Well, the state law gives the authority to mayors for hiring and firing. Now, we have it in several other cities, majority of other cities have, that the council confirms the hiring, but that still gives the mayor the authority to fire without council's approval. And so both our city attorney and also this human or personnel specific attorney felt that we couldn't do something that would take that authority away that's been given by the state. We don't, as a city, don't have the power to take away the state's authority. But what we could do is, if we wanted to allow someone to be an employee by contract, that's different than just the hiring and firing. A contract, when you do a contract, then that allows the council to be the approving authority for creating and approving the contract as well as terminating the contract. So the first step would be...
that would stop the termination?
So I think kind of the way it would work is that when someone was hired, like let's pretend it's a new employee, you have a couple of options. One, you could either initiate a contract immediately if council wants to set it up that way, or the council could set it up that the person could be hired by the mayor for the first however many months or up to a year or something like that. And then at that point, during that kind of transition time, the mayor would still have the authority to hire or fire if the person's not working out, if there's a problem, whatever. But then at a certain point, they reach a certain point, then the city could enter into a contract with that employee, and you would negotiate the contract between the employee and the city, and for a certain amount of time.
Following the same pay scale schedule
Right,
that
you
we've
could
already
set it up to be on, to follow the same pay scale and all of that, or you could choose to set it up
Well,
separately.
what would stop, let's just say, a rogue mayor from
Well,
from firing an employee? You have to pay the contract out.
So the
And you
contract,
lose the employee anyway, and the expense.
it would depend on how the contract
Yeah, the
is written.
wouldn't be worded where there'd be a monetary,
It could be. There could be a severance.
Well,
There
that-
could be a severance tactic. Severance could be negotiated into the contract. It would have
But,
to
I mean,
be.
if the rogue mayor hated the employee so much, to force him out anyway,
They could, they wouldn't have the authority to actually fire the person.
Okay.
if the contract was in place. If there was a contract, the way the contract would be written is that the mayor would not have the authority. Once the contract is in place, the authority would then be given to the council to do the termination,
So the employee could stay.
even if the mayor didn't like them.
Okay. Because I could see that potentially happen.
Yeah, that's the idea with the contract. That's the only way that they felt like, that those, both the attorneys felt like
Right.
that it would be a legal way to
Right.
secure an employee's
Yeah.
position.
Didn't want them to be able to dismiss the employee anyway and have to pay off the contract. Then we're kind of screwed. We have to pay you and
The mayor could say whatever they wanted, but that doesn't mean that it's the case. I mean,
because of the
if a
contract.
mayor tried to fire
Well, it
somebody,
would
they
have to
wouldn't
be
have the
the
authority.
wording of the contract. Would have to be very careful
Yes, yes.
because we don't want to end up in a situation where
So what, right, so
So
the
we
contract
have to
is
pay
like
twice.
the second step of this. The first step is writing in the code that a contract is a possibility and that you want to have that option available. So that's what this is about tonight is, do you want to go that route? Do you want your attorneys to go ahead and
Well,
work
we
up?
should get right on that.
And does that need to be in a motion?
It's recommended.
I've been thinking about this for
Well,
quite a while.
It's recommended.
So,
I was thinking about it.
I move to direct, I want to make a motion to direct the staff to work with legal counsel and create verbiage to allow for employee contracts. Does that capture it?
And the motion?
So he did the motion.
Okay.
So now,
The motion needs to be seconded, yes.
I'll second.
Okay. And all those in favor? Aye.
you want to have council discussions?
Yeah.
I think we just
council-
did.
I know, we did, but we always do it first, but.
You want council discussion anymore? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. The third item of business for tonight is for the council to discuss the 2020 budget estimates. And I guess I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, so we ran into the same issue with the 2020 budget estimates as I did with the home occupation. I have been working really hard to get those numbers together for you in the limited time that I've had on the computer the last several weeks. And they are not done yet. And I could have given you what I had, but I just felt like that would be misleading and I didn't want to give you inaccurate or unfinished work. So basically what I need to get to you guys on council and the mayor is I need to get to you the estimates of what I think the estimated expenditures and estimated revenues are for 2020. So it's not a budget.
Bring back our binders from last year.
You can, or I have new ones, but you can bring them back and turn them in so I can recycle them. I love that. We always need binders. I'm hoping to have that at the latest for you on Monday. But we were hoping to have just a little bit of conversation about those numbers laid out for you already for tonight. But the next council meeting, we will be discussing those numbers and using those estimates for you to start talking about tax levy. Because that has to happen in the next few weeks here. Actually by the end of November, but we have to start having public hearings and things. So I will have that. My goal is to have it available for you no later than Monday. So I will call you as soon as those
9 a.m.
I'm thinking a little later in the day to give me a little cushion, but I will call you as soon as they're ready. I'll call each of you and let you know that the numbers are there. And I can even post them on the website if that's easier for you to view them there. No? Put them up and that's fine too.
The computer thing.
Okay. I'll always have hard copies for you.
Is there
Okay?
anybody that wants to make a public comment?
Public comment. Let's see.
Donna.
Yes, we have one person, Donna Rogers.
Yeah, I wanted to
comment on the employee protection thing here. It sounds like to me, and from all the comments made the other night at that little community gathering to meet everybody, there was a lot of people in the audience that are very displeased with Jill because she's such a bully and nasty and ignorant, and she's been out of control for a long time. And so now, that only tells me because
Is
you're
this
trying
the
to
place
protect
to
her.
talk
Yes, it
crap
is.
about people?
I'm not talking crap, I'm talking fact. This is a community consensus.
This
You were
isn't-
there, Mike.
And it is something that you're not supposed to be able to point fingers at certain people and.
Well, it was brought up, and you're protecting Jill. We all know what this is about.
We're
And yet
protecting the
we're gonna-
city.
Excuse me, I'm talking. This is my 3 minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it. So anyway, so now we're going to protect her. So what happens if she does something wrong? We just overlook it like we have been because there's nobody that keeps her in control. And we have a mayor that is totally intimidated by her, does everything she's told to do. So people are tired of that, and we're tired of paying all these attorney fees. That's all you guys do is call the attorney. And then we have Mike here that's decided he's going to cut our timber down up at the water pipe to go after people in town again with your little vindictive things. So people are tired of it. Keep that in mind.
That's it for public comment.
Yes. We need to adjourn the meeting.
Nope,
Oh,
elected
yeah.
official comments.
Oh, yeah, elected official comments. Oh, I don't want
Did anyone sign up?
What's that?
Did anyone sign up?
Oh, I signed up. The cutting down the trees was a way to grab revenue, and it was a place to do the limb collection thing, and it was an idea. Just because an idea is presented does not mean that it's going to happen. That's why hey, this is my time. You had your time. That's why we have a council. And that's why we're doing this with the employees situation, because if somebody comes in and they decide that they don't like an employee because they're mean and they just fire them, you have no idea what kind of garbage this city would go into. We might even lose our water. We might get some money embezzled. We might have a lot of issues that would need to be cleaned up. So protecting the city is what I'm doing, and I believe that everyone else up here is doing that. And the reason we have a council, I said about the trees, and Jason doesn't like it. Okay, so that's another issue that we'll have to work out. But all of the name calling and all of that is out there is just getting to be ridiculous. We can disagree on something, and we can still be civil to each other. So that's all I gotta say.
I'd like to say something. So one of the reasons why I am in favor of the personnel policy update with the contracts, it's been talked about off and on for a couple of years, actually, and for quite a while. You watch the news, or listen to the news, read the papers, and you see the trouble the other small communities have been gotten into over the years. And I believe the thing that keeps the cities and keeps us temporary amateurs that are here supposedly in charge is a very strong and competent city staff. And to give the power to remove that staff when they are so important, and to give that power to one person, regardless of who it is, present, future, it's just not wise. A greater representation of the city should have that power, not just one person, because it's so vital.
I might add, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
That this is a consensus among most of the people in this community about Jill, and she's created that herself. And we've never, since this city was established in 1906, ever had to have a policy to protect an employee because they're out of control in the community. And that seems to be what you're doing. You're more interested in her than you are the community or anything that you do for the community.
How is she out of control? Okay.
Yeah.
My comment is complete.
Meeting adjourned.
We're adjourned.